All right. Well, hey, it's Bourbon Blog Live. We are tasting something that I've really been enjoying lately. It's Blue Run Spirits, their rye whiskey. And hopefully, if you haven't tried it, you can try it soon. We're talking with co founder Mike Montgomery here and Shaylyn Gammon. She is the whiskey director. Nice to see you all.
You as well. And it's great to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on Bourbon Blog. And again, tell us down below for all those viewing if you've tried any of the Blue Runs, what you think. This is the batch number 2 of the Golden Rye, isn't it?
It is.
Go ahead, Shaylyn. I mean, this is Shaylyn. Shaylyn was fully in charge of this one, and I think she knocked it out of the park.
You really did. What are we tasting here?
Yeah, I had a lot to live up to, being that the first release was so great. So this is a 4-year-old rye, and it is delicious. I think it is so aptly named. The golden, I don't know if it's preconceived, but I do get the whole entire golden experience. It feels like for rye in the summer, there's no other rye I'd be sipping on in the summer. It's absolutely perfect. It's got that brightness that everything you could possibly want.
Yeah, it does. It has, and is that part of the? It's bright. It has some of the spice.
Mm-hmm.
I get some clove in this, kind of creamy. I mean, there's so many things happening. Is the golden aptly named because it was released in the summer? Is that part of it?
I'll let Mike answer that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was more so kind of the state of mind.
Okay. Cool.
It's if you go back to the way that I guess we used to talk, Tom, how are you? I'm golden. Everything's golden. It's a state of mind. It's there is a certain vibrancy to this liquid that we noticed, it's we talk about the color, the grains, but it's really more so state of mind. And you'll kind of notice that there's a trend with some of that. We'll talk maybe about reflection later, but that also is really about being transported to another place.
Excellent. And again, no, I like that. I like the fact that it is transported to another time, place. I mean, part of what I do enjoy about whiskey and aged spirits in general is that time travel, both historically that visits us from heritage, and also just the fact that when you're tasting something, you are traveling in time in some ways.
I just wish we had a time machine. Shaylyn probably wishes we did too. Could go back in time and find some super aged barrels and bring them back.
Bitcoin and super aged barrels.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where would you go back to if you could do that? I mean, I didn't even mean to go down this line, but what barrel would we be trying to get to? Let's hear it.
I mean, whatever Shaylyn wants is what we'll get. That's the deal.
Oh man, yeah. Go back over 10 years ago, really. When things were far more accessible. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen what was available back then. That it's so different now. So different.
What you could have gotten your hands on. And again, the fact that you all did this, I mean, this is one that 4 years old. The amount of rye in this is it 100%?
We're not saying the mash bill in this guide.
You're not saying.
Yeah.
You're not saying even if it's 100% or less than 100%.
Yeah, it's not 100%.
So it's not 100%. Okay.
We'll say it's less than 95.
Less than 90.
Yes, that's a good qualifier.
It's less than 95, but we like to say, Tom, that this is a rye that bourbon lovers will love.
Mm-hmm.
I taste that. It has some of those nice bourbon notes. I mean, you get some of those nice vanillas off this. Tell us the story about when you're going into the whiskey room. I mean, this one, I know a little bit about who made it and where it was distilled. Any story there you want to share or that you're able to share?
Well, that's perhaps a Shaylyn question, though. I do think, Shaylyn and I were talking the other day about the difference between batch 1 and batch 2, which is what you're drinking today.
Yeah.
And Shaylyn pointed out that some of the darker notes actually shine through more in batch 2. my palate is, in kindergarten, and Shaylyn's is in, grad school or doctorate or, but I agree with her assessment that there are some really intriguing darker notes that shine through on batch 2 that I really like. But it's Sophie's choice. How do you choose your favorite here?
Yeah. I can see darker notes. I may have tried batch 1. What darker notes do you get, Shaylyn, on this?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Even myself, I've been doing this quite a long time, but having that means of comparison right in front of you is so key. So when I sat down, I tasted batch 1 versus batch 2. Immediately, all those like almost more aged notes, like it tastes older than 4 years old to me. It's more complex, especially for a rye. I was getting kind of those brown sugars and those caramelic like notes that you see typically around year 6 plus.
Right.
So that's definitely a plus. And I, of course, prefer that. I come from, wild turkey where we age things longer and had a lot of those types of notes. So that's where my palate likes to be. But it's still golden. It's still got those honeys and those middle notes, those estery type notes that we all know and love.
Yes, it really does. I get those, the brown sugars, and again, just nice spices coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Really beautiful. This one is one that's actually available right now, still on your website. Is it on your website only? Can they find this in stores? Where can they get it?
They can find it on bluerunspirits.com,
Yeah.
Seal Box, and in 20 plus markets across the country and Canada. So
many places.
Yeah, it should be widely available.
Yeah.
I would suggest to anybody listening here, if they are interested, grab it now. This is the end of Golden Rye as it's in this iteration. And I for one want to have backups to my backups if possible.
Backups to the backups, because what happens next year is going to be a different Golden Rye. Tell me why.
Well, I think our access to these specific barrels is likely coming to a close, and so it's kind of act now.
Yeah.
For the rye, or for it's what
for the golden rye.
For the golden rye.
For the golden rye.
Yeah.
Because what's to come may take several years to be out there, or just mainly focusing on bourbon, or
well, it may be different, right?
Maybe a different iteration.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's you could call this, Shaylyn likes to talk in terms of LTOs or limited time offerings, and this golden is kind of falls in that category.
It's very nice. 10 whiskeys. Oh no, 20. How many? It's been 20 you've done. 10 whiskeys since October 2020, right?
That may be about right. I think
about 10 since then. That's quite a few for a new brand.
Yeah, it is. We started out thinking about doing one release a quarter. That was the goal, right? That was and that was very aspirational for us too, right? Like, can we hit that? That's we're a small company. We're just getting started. Launching in October of 2020. We can talk about that later if you want. During doing anything in this period is, it requires some gymnastics, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's say, and but we're being, not yet in year 2 and having 10 releases, we've exceeded our own expectations. We pushed a lot faster, not faster, but harder than we thought we would, because we're just motivated to, we've got inventory, we've got ideas. Now we're working with Shaylyn. There's just so much opportunity on the horizon to do some fun things that's going to hopefully delight the people who want to give us a try.
Yes. Yeah. And again, it's sort of a crazy time to start a new company. You guys did this. You started releasing whiskeys that were well received from the very beginning.
Yeah, and yet here we are, and the sky's the limit. It's like Shaylyn's got this blank canvas in front of her. We think that we're working with the most innovative mind in the industry with Shaylyn as whiskey director, and
Thank you.
it's going to be very fun to watch the progression of products and releases and blends and all the stuff that she's got bumping around in her mind.
Yeah.
A lot of whiskey cooking. Well, no, Shaylyn's done an amazing job. Everything from, you worked at Wild Turkey in Campari for how many years? You were there for a while.
8 years. Yeah.
8 years working with some of the very best with the Russells. Now you're alongside working with
some of the best.
Friend Jim Rutledge. I mean, these are some folks that we really love all the whiskeys they've done, and you're helping create these. I mean, you're the director. You're making this happen.
Yeah.
How's that? What's it like working with Jim?
It's amazing. It's difficult there's so many things to discuss when you talk about Blue Run, and something I'll come back to Jim, but the beauty of the 5 founders is that none of them came from the industry. And I think that brings such a freshness, and you're not clouded by, all these preconceived ideas of what bourbon should be. And so I think that's reflective in the 10 products we've released and where we're going to continue to go. No, there's not a roadmap per se that we're following. And so that's really exciting to me. And I want to be a part of something like that. And obviously qualities at the very top, inclusivity, these are things that not just buzzwords, but things that the brand absolutely lives. And if you look into Blue Run at all, it's completely, it's completely our guiding lights. Working with Jim is amazing. I mean, you mentioned the Russells. I worked with the Russells, and then 8 years later, I'm working with Jim Rutledge. He's an amazing person, first and foremost. He cares. When we sit down and we have our discussions, he's teaching me about distilling. He first talks about his philosophies, which is how to treat people. And I would have never guessed that's the route that he'd go. But that is there's no one watching. It's just he and myself. And that is what matters most to him. And Mike can attest to this. He's just a really good person. And so I soak up every minute that he can give me and give the team. And it's an amazing part of our story.
Yeah, Jim is an incredible person. I mean,
he really is.
Take his knowledge and skill out of it, and Jim is just, he's got this kind of gruff exterior, and the first time meeting him, it felt like meeting Michael Jordan, something like that. But getting to know Jim, he's just, he might be on the Mount Rushmore of bourbon. He's also on the Mount Rushmore of great people. Just he is one of a kind, and they don't make him like Jim, but they should.
It's so true. I know. He's a wonderful gentleman, just such a great guy. I think one of the first. Now, it wasn't the first, but among some of the first, just really long form produced videos we did at Bourbon Blog many years ago was us following 3 gentlemen that were picking out a single barrel 4 Roses, and it was just a lot of fun the whole afternoon. Cool. Tasting through those, and then realizing just back then, even now, I mean, I knew what proof I was getting myself into, but it didn't feel like it. But it was a fun video, a fun afternoon.
Yeah, he has that uncanny ability, doesn't he?
He does. He really does. Which he's carried on in everything he does. I mean, this is so delicious. And again, this is one that he distilled, that you all aged. I mean, again, and I think people know this, but we'll say this: you all don't have your own distillery, but you're working with another couple other great distilleries, right? Want to talk about that a little bit? I mean, you're making great stuff. You're overseeing it. Describe that a little bit.
You want me to do that, Shaylyn, or you want to?
Sure, go ahead.
I'll just say we started doing some contract distillation at Castle and Key.
Yeah.
In 2020. we've shifted, as I think Shaylyn may have mentioned earlier, most of our production work over to Bardstown Bourbon Company,
Yes.
who've been incredible partners.
Yes.
Just like, here we go. This is like the world tour of talking about good people, great humans. But the folks over at BBC have treated us like family, have opened the doors and welcomed us in. And,
yes.
Top to bottom, Mark and Ingrid and Susie and Justin and Nick, all the way down, down the line. Everybody has been truly fantastic. And so we're happy to be there. We are going to do a little bit more contract distillation at a handful of other places, just to make sure that we're fulfilling our pipeline to the extent necessary. But I think the thing that I'm most excited about is that Shaylyn gets access to all these incredible people who are distilling, and she's picking up all this new information along the way. I mean, going from the Russells then to Rutledge to Bardstown, and then some of these other distilleries. I think that the sky is the limit, and I kind of think about the products that Shaylyn produces are kind of like these. They're going to be so layered, that with flavor and thought and the time and everything that goes into doing everything properly. We don't do kind of assembly line bourbon, where it's like, yeah, we pumped out 100,000 barrels this year. It's really time and attention, and we've got the right people working with us to be able to pull it off. But I'm sure Shaylyn has probably more interesting thoughts on that.
No, that's great. I mean, yeah, like Mike said, we're working towards distilling as much of our own liquid as we can with Jim, and in the meantime, we continue to source until we can get to that point. But we also have a lot of our liquid has been distilled by Jim, so extremely fortunate to have so much of his liquid, and stuff that he distilled even before he was directly working as our contracted master distiller. So
yes.
It's quite the legacy.
Oh, absolutely. And when you're working with the best people in the business, mm-hmm. and you're having the access and you're to oversee it, the aging, mm-hmm. the distillation. I mean, that's what matters. And I think that's so important for people to understand that process. You're not just, you're really, you have something in mind. As you were saying earlier before we started, Mike, it's not just about slapping a label on the side of something. It's really about the thought that goes into the whole brand, the whole process. And it's just really delicious. Again, probably should just ask you this. I know the answer, but for those that don't, the name Blue Run, where's this come from?
Sure. So one of my co-founders, Jesse McKnight, grew up in Georgetown, and he lived across the street from Elijah Craig's property. And so I like to talk about it in terms of a Nerf football on a windy day. If Jesse stood on his front porch on a windy day, he could throw a Nerf football across the street and hit Elijah Craig's front door with accuracy. I don't know if Jesse's a good quarterback or not, but that tells you the proximity to between their homes. And so Jesse always had this idea of trying to bring bourbon back to Georgetown, Scott County. And when we were trying to figure out what to name Blue Run, we spent a lot of time in Georgetown, and Jesse took us, in back of, through Georgetown, but to Royal Spring, and where he kind of played as a kid and did this frog catching thing, frog gigging, I believe it's called, frog gigging. And he said, well, this is Royal Spring, but when I was growing up, I called it the Blue Run. And so of course the question was why, and it's because Jesse's dad was a history major. Jesse turned out to be a history major, but it was what Jesse called the Royal Spring as a kid. He called it the Blue Run, which just so happened to be the name of the Reverend Elijah Craig's Baptist Church, the Blue Run Baptist Church.
Wow.
And so, the name Blue Run kind of popped for everybody, but it was this idea that it kind of made it authentic to Jesse. I thought the name was kind of fun and cool and kind of a modernized take on something that has historical ties, kind of like what we've attempted to do with our product, which is, we're tied to the heritage through the liquid, through Jim and Shaylyn.
Yes.
But we want the packaging to feel like it's modern. And so that name kind of bridged that divide for us.
And then this butterfly then represents part of the what?
Change.
Part of the change. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And it is
metamorphosis. So in a way,
beautiful.
Tom, the idea is that, sorry, I get excited about this.
No, I love the story. It's great.
That a lot of spirits sectors have gone through a metamorphosis, a change. When you look at vodka, specifically vodka, and tequila as well. They've kind of had their dusty days, and then they've had this kind of resurgence. And the world of American whiskey, I believe, never went through that. It just was what it was.
Right.
And so there's this whole new world of consumer out there. We've got this diversifying, nation. And we think that there's likely not as much brand affinity with kind of this younger generation. So we think it's a really good chance to build brand affinity with this growing base of people, who aren't the typical, bourbon drinker, that stereotypical bourbon drinker,
right,
if you will.
No, I think you're right. The last 10, 15 years, and we all know this, the three of us, and I'm sure a lot of people watching, how the growth has happened in bourbon whiskey, and the transition from what it was to what it's become. How do you plan on growing the affinity? That's fascinating.
Well, we hired Shaylyn, and now I can go on vacation. I think we try to grow the affinity through ensuring the release of high quality product.
Yeah.
First and foremost. But and Shaylyn may have more to add to this, and she probably will. My personal take is it's about relationships.
Yes.
I come from the political world, for better or for worse. But I think the people in my former world who did well were people who were able to connect. And, in a way, there's not much of a difference between a voter and a consumer. They're kind of the same thing.
Right.
And so we've gone out of our way to be accessible, to reach out, to form connections, to make relationships, to further relationships. And, I think that to date, I've probably written, north of 15,000 handwritten thank you notes that I'm literally, addressing by hand myself, stamping myself, dropping in a mailbox. Shaylyn started doing that. Jesse, Tim, Andy, some of our other partners have been doing the same. We want to be the type of company that we would be fans of ourselves if we weren't involved.
I love that. And I was actually going to ask you about that because I heard you had written so many thank you notes just to connect with the consumer. That's so important.
It really is. And it's like, it's fun to start connecting names with faces on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or Facebook, but we actually get to know who our consumers are. You know, when you look at all these big companies, like the company that Shaylyn used to work for example, you know, I don't think they did this type of thing. Now, you know, they've got there's there are different clubs you can join and whatnot, but there's a human connection that I think is missing from a lot of interactions. And it can't just simply be about, you know, we're selling people a bottle, they're buying it, that's the end of the story. Right. For us, that's just the beginning.
You want to see that done through the connection, through events, through all types of.
We want to be able to reach out and touch people in a variety of ways, and it's not just, you know, it's not just simply writing a thank you note. It's not just simply sending people an email and thanking them. You know, Shaylyn's going to be to the point here pretty soon, hopefully, where we've got the time and the ability to get her out in front of people. And you know, I personally want a Shaylyn Gammon signed bottle myself. Right. And I think I'm not alone. Yeah, you might be able
to do that for him.
Yeah.
What you all are doing is amazing. And again, just such delicious whiskey. I know there's going to be so much ahead. But hey, before we go much further, I want to put the website up in case you are looking for where to find one of these bottles. BlueRunSpirits.com. I see some great comments below from the people that have tried your whiskey. And again, just really appreciate the chance to chat with you all today. Shaylyn, I mean, as far as we're looking ahead towards what's next, without giving away things you can't give away or anything you want to share, for as upcoming releases or just a vision for what you have in mind, tell us what you're what you're looking towards.
Yeah, I mean, part of coming over to Blue Run was the excitement of being able to carry out a lot of the ideas I've had over the years and just try things. We all know with R&D, not everything works out, not everything's a win, but having the ability, you know, I'm first and foremost a scientist, so having the ability to experiment is exciting. So lots of things I'm working on at once, and a lot of the things that I'm especially interested in are more long-term. I give the analogy, if you ask me if I want 1 cookie now or 2 cookies later, I'm a 2 cookies later girl. Got a lot of stamina. So I'm looking at more long-term stuff. That's where a lot of my heart is. But in the meantime, doing blends and doing anything that feels unique and feels different and fresh, on brand, of course, you know, those are the things I'm interested in. So working on a lot of those types of projects. And this year we've had some great releases so far. We have a rye coming out later this year. I hope I can say that. And that's going to be extremely exciting. And some other small drops. You talked about brand affinity. One of the things Blue Run has done so well is really small, like drops that you don't have a lot of foreknowledge about them coming. And next thing you know, they're there and they're gone. So you can be looking for those types of things now and in the future. So much coming.
So much.
And Tom, I can also tell you, we are going to, near the end of September, early October, we will have, I think, an exciting release that's going to challenge the definition of small batch a little bit. I'm really, really, really excited about that. Shaylyn got some samples in my hands the other day, and they're incredible. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think last year there was a lot of excitement about the idea of the 12 days, we called it. You know, there was we released a single barrel a day for 12 days. We're bringing that back again.
Doing a 12-day, and that'll be in towards
That'll
holidays?
be this December as well.
This December, doing a 12-day, a single barrel
Mhm.
each day. Are we going to see more one-offs, some that are available all year with you? What, as far as that goes, what does that look like?
Yes.
Both. Both, because from up till now, a lot of it has been the one-offs, the one blend, or the one release.
Yeah, we have. I would say I'll jump in here. I say we have one
Yeah.
and a half staples right now.
Yeah.
We have our high rye bourbon. A bit of a misnomer. Some people think it's called high rye. It's not a rye.
Right.
It's a bourbon.
Yeah.
It's a 111 proof. It's one of our staple products. We also have something called Reflection. And that was released this year. That's a 95 proof, sippable, approachable bourbon. And hey, but one of the cool things about that is I might be, changing that over time. It's actually got the Roman numeral 1 after it, Reflection 1. So there is room for me to come in and, switch it up. So that's why I say 1.5 staples. The rest are kind of sprinkled in various quantities. At that point, we'll probably stay with the 1 or 2 for the foreseeable future.
Excellent. And then again, some work at Castle and Key in the beginning. Bardstown Bourbon Company, Jim Rutledge. I know that you mentioned other distilleries you might be partnering with. Anyone you're able to share? Any other places we may be seeing you?
Not at the moment that we can divulge.
Sure.
But yeah, we're really excited about a couple of budding partnerships with some folks who have an incredible amount of pedigree.
Excellent. You're doing such great work as a team there. Shaylyn, Mike, I mean, this is such delicious whiskey, and I can't wait to taste more with you all and to see what it sounds like. A couple new releases even before the end of this year, right? You said a couple more.
Yeah.
Even before the
How
end
many,
of this
Shaylyn?
year. Just more and
3.
more coming. 3 more.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, since October 2020, I mean, this is going to be like 13, 14 whiskeys you're going to be releasing. So congratulations to you all. And again, the place to go to learn more is bluerunspirits.com. What a cool thing. I can't wait to see what's next. This is such a delicious rye. I've had a little bit of the bourbon. I enjoyed that a lot. Awesome. Really amazing brand with what you're building with brand affinity, bourbon, rye, whiskeys. And I asked Mike earlier, again, Blue Run Spirits, you're focused on whiskey now, but you never know, right? It could be something else coming.
You never know. Shaylyn's worked on a lot of different spirits, so you never know. You gotta
Grappa.
Hopefully keep following us. Yeah, grappa.
Everyone's least favorite. So.
Oh. Yeah,
I'll try some grappa if you make it. I like it every now and then.
I'll keep you in mind for my tasters.
Please do. Hey, again, thank you all for everybody watching live. We appreciate it, and thanks for sharing your comments. And again, Mike, Shaylyn, thanks for taking some time this evening to join us on Bourbon Blog, and we will keep everyone posted on bourbonblog.com on all the other new releases.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate this. And we would love to join you anytime, anywhere that you will have us.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And again, thanks everyone for watching and for continuing to watch us. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button on whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube you're watching. And make sure you try this Blue Run Rye. It still sounds like there's a little bit, right? From what I see.
There is.
There's still a little bit left. Cheers, y'all.